Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Athena, Realtor in Denver. And I think this is going to be residential real estate, right, for the most part?
You know, we'll see where it goes, but primarily residential real estate and the journey that life has taken me on, man. It's been an interesting decade. We'll just put it that way for a teaser.
No, for sure. I mean, we were talking about it before we got on mic. I mean, the women in the real estate space, it's intriguing. I think the clientele that you get sometimes, or the people that want to be your quote unquote clientele,
Right.
and you have to kind of weigh it out. Do they actually really want to buy, or are they looking for something else?
Yeah. And you know, that it kind of takes me a perfect segue into where I grew up. I grew up in a very small mountain community. I mean, it's not super small, Breckenridge, Colorado. So about an hour and a half outside of Denver. And I was a professional skier my whole life. So
Wow.
I lived in a little bubble, to be completely honest with you. My world was skiing. I skied 300 plus days a year, traveling all over the world, chasing snow. And my vision, my bubble was being a professional athlete. So when I did, and we can discuss that more, kind of venture into the world of real estate, I didn't have the lens of protection necessarily. And I think when you start in real estate or any endeavor as an entrepreneur, the amount of dedication and hard work and the amount that you have to say yes to people to get opportunities, but not understanding that yes does not necessarily mean that person wants to buy real estate from you. That was a really hard reality for me to kind of grasp, because I really had not fully experienced how manipulative people can be. And unfortunately, that's the case. And with time, you learn how to vet people. But when you're a broker and you're just, trying to get going, any lead is a lead, and you will go after them with everything you have. And unfortunately, and I think this is the case for most, when you're a real estate agent, your information is everywhere. So anyone that wants to see it, find you, talk to you, you will have stalkers. you name it, we've seen it. And it's 10 years in now, I think I've got the toolkit to at least help guide, how serious a potential client is, if they're actually interested in purchasing real estate or not. But it's an unfortunate reality that, women and men have to face. I know you said you've dealt with stalkers in the past.
well, one of the craziest one was, it was a client that I thought was ready to actually wanted to buy a property, and I was working as, like you said, you say yes.
Yeah.
And I got a text from them at I think it was 12 o'clock or 11 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was their face next to some genitalia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh gosh, okay.
You're like, so it's like that, block.
Yeah. So something intriguing you talked about, and we're going to get into your kind of journey, all that stuff. But I'm curious, you said small town. How small was the town you grew up in?
So at the time I graduated, it was Summit County, which encompasses four smaller towns. So my graduating class in high school was about 340, but it was all feeding from those four towns. So we have a very second home population. It's where people get their mountain homes. The amount of people that live there full time, I think, is closer to 10,000, maybe 8. So it's not extremely small, but then you go into the world of professional skiing and it becomes extremely small. I mean, I was traveling with the same 15 to 20 people for a decade.
So I'm curious about this. I mean, I guess with the professional aspect of it, because I have a lot of family that's in Northern California, was a small town, not as small, but it seemed like most of those relatives that lived there either were pregnant or married by the age of 18, right?
You
And
know, total opposite for me
okay,
and my entire family, which is
okay,
hilarious. So my parents actually, they are probably the most fascinating humans, to be totally honest. My dad was a professional speed skier, so he went to the Olympics for the pure sport of going down the mountain in a rubber suit as fast as he possibly could and getting clocked. And I think his record was like 127 miles an hour. He's brilliant. Has 5 master's degrees, ended up being a builder and developer, which actually made me want nothing to do with real estate,
yeah,
which a whole nother story we'll get into. But he got a concussion so bad one day that he couldn't find his way home. And my mom was working at her brother's medical center in Breckenridge, just trying to figure out what she wanted to do after grad school. And they were in their mid-30s. And he ended up coming in with a concussion, and she took care of him, and they dated for 10 years, had me at 44. So they're definitely older. As I say that, my dad is he's in Lisbon right now in Portugal, racing like a Le Mans prototype car at age 73, and he got second yesterday. So like the psychoses gene, it runs in the family for sure. But with that, like I've never, growing up with older parents, I saw how much life they lived and how much they were able to pass along through experience because they had lived 44 years of life prior to having me. and when they did have me, it was, my dad was still a professional athlete, and we were on the road quite a bit. And that mentality has always been kind of how I've lived my life. Now, unfortunately, it's been derailed quite a bit through chronic illness. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease about 8 years ago, and it took me from, an elite athlete to barely being able to walk or move at all. And I'm still, today's my 3rd day this month of plasma transfusions. I do 4 days of transfusions every month just to keep my body from killing itself, basically. So that has been another stunt factor in not getting married early. But I think it's, it has a lot to do with how you're raised.
Is there, from, I guess, the mindset that your parents instilled with you, to the professional aspect of it, to real estate, to overcome or working through, I guess, the illness stuff, is there a process you go through to, I guess, is it a vision board? Is it a mindset thing? Is it a workout? What does that look like from a young age to now?
And I truly believe that, like, you look back in life and you start to understand how different events have set you up in life to be where you are and to overcome whatever adversity that you're faced with. And first of all, I always say that being a professional athlete was not only the best business school that I ever could have asked for, because it taught me, hands-on every day, how to show up and be accountable, how to be disciplined, how to work hard. Because if I was 2 minutes late for the chair for training, I would be doing burpees when I got to the top for as long as my coaches felt like it. I learned what it meant to show up and how to be resilient, because I can't tell you how many mornings we were at the lift at 8 a.m. after being at the gym already to warm up, and it's 2 degrees out, not even counting the wind chill. And if you're 2 minutes late, in the book of a high level coach, just as in, high level coaching in real estate, which I've always been a huge proponent of, like coaching and mentorship to me are my guiding light for sure. But it taught me a resilience and grit that I believe are what have enabled me to not only be successful as a realtor, because like I said, I think you have to have a little bit of a psychosis to be in this business, because it is not what people necessarily think. Business does not fall into your lap. You have to be willing to pretty much dedicate your life to it and then figure out the balance portion. You know, you start out saying yes to everything, and then at a certain point you have to figure out what your boundaries are, and then you have years like the last couple when you kind of just have to start saying yes to everything again. So it's a journey, but within that, through getting really sick, I mean, you know, most people, so basically what Lyme disease does is it's unique for everyone because it attacks whatever you're genetically predisposed to. So for some people, it can be purely psychiatric, it can be GI, it can show up as like rheumatoid arthritis, and it's really difficult to treat and to find a diagnose because of it. So I was really lucky. I was getting over my second neck surgery about 8.5 years ago. And I was having all these really weird infections popping up that my doctor was like, you know, this healthy 23-year-old shouldn't be having all these issues. Something's going on. And he was a very Lyme literate doctor from Connecticut, you know, trained at Harvard and Columbia, just brilliant guy. And he said, I think we should test you for Lyme. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, I've never even seen a tick, like, let alone been bit by one. Like, there's no way. And like, sure enough, 7 of 10 strains of Lyme plus multiple co-infections. But unfortunately, it turned my immune system against itself. So it caused all these autoimmune issues that pretty much leave people on disability. And I honestly, the last 8 years have been a journey of building my toolkit of what it is, what it's going to take to have the resilience and the grit to get out of bed every day and to serve my clients and to continue doing the job that I like. I am that corny person that is like, I love real estate more than anything. Like, I truly do. I've been in it 10 years, like I said, and I love it more every day. And I really believe that it's because when you find your why in life, like for me, being able to build lifelong relationships with people, being able to be such a pivotal part in someone's life in buying or selling or investing in their biggest, you know, biggest transaction, biggest investment of their lives, like that is such an honor to me. And not to mention the fact that it's usually with people that I have known for years. You know, it's people that I've built these relationships with. But with that, I've had to figure out what my go-tos are for the days that I don't want to get up, which is most days, because I feel horrible all the time pretty much at this point. Now, I'm also psychotically resilient, and I know that I'll get through this, and whatever means necessary, like I will get my life back. But it has taught me this really, you know, going back to saying yes to everything. I have always been the person that not only was I an only child, but a professional skier. Those are not team sports. So the art of delegation was something that has never come easy to me. And what I've had to learn through illness and through building a career is the art of delegation and having the right people around you. Like, my team is my family. I've had the pleasure of working with them for, you know, some of them a decade now. And to have people, you know, I strongly believe iron sharpens iron. So when you have people around you that believe in you and are going to help push you to be your best, even when you don't feel like being your best, or you don't feel like even being anything at that point, like step 1, step 2, like I am a avid journaler. Like, I journal, I write my gratitudes, I write my affirmations. I have to get workouts in, even if they're like completely pathetic compared to what they used to look like. I know that my mental health relies on these things. And it's all of the small, you know, small items that when you're a real estate agent and you're building a business and you want to continue to have your business grow, it's so easy to let these important little self-care. I think self-care is such a term right now. And it makes me, it's like, no, these are things that we should be doing just because it's how we take, it's how we take care of ourselves, but it doesn't need to be a trend. It's like what works for you, but don't let it go out the rear view when you get busy. So for me, bringing these elements or like finding my toolkit of, at nighttime, I red light and hyperbaric chamber, and then maybe a sauna bag. Like I have what's called a greatness tracker that I got from one of my coaches years and years ago that I follow for real estate. Now, this outlines what activities that I am supposed to be doing every day in order to keep my business from doing too many ebbs and flows. It's like what helps me find consistency, and it's what activities are authentic to me. So for me, it's, I'm supposed to make 10 calls a day. I'm supposed to do 5 breaking breads or like face-to-face, meetings over food or coffee a week. 1 to 2 open houses a week. For me, handwritten notes is like my favorite thing ever because I can do them when I don't feel good. So making sure I'm writing 4 handwritten notes a day. But under all of the, real estate mandatories, I put in my toolkit of self-care that are mandatory. So how many days a week do I need to be in the gym? How many days a week do I need to be getting certain IVs? How many days a week am I red light therapy? How many days a week am I journaling or meditating? Like these items are just as important / probably more important, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anyone else. And if I'm not holding myself accountable to those things, not only will I suffer, but my business will suffer. So that's been my way of really holding myself accountable to taking care of myself in an industry where it's really difficult to find balance and take care of yourself, as I'm sure you can relate.
So something you talked about, you brought it up a couple times, resiliency and grit. And then you also brought up big why. So my assumption, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you've always gone towards pleasure compared to going away from pain.
I would say the opposite.
You go away from pain?
No, I go towards, you said I go towards pleasure and away from pain.
Well, so most people, right, live their life either away from pain or towards pleasure.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's more of a rarity that people actually go towards pleasure, right?
That's
compared
really
to actually going away from pain. So it sounds like you go towards pleasure, correct?
It's been a difficult attempt at getting to that. That is my goal.
Gotcha.
But the athlete in me, the way that I was brought up was not that way. I mean, it was to push through pain. It was, if you're not in pain, you're not training hard enough. It's a little bit masochistic. and I loved it. Like that's what I believe turned me into the resilient person that I am. Mm-hmm. But what has been a challenge for me is to, I get yelled at by my team every week because I'm constantly battling this really, really deep innate urge to want to work myself into the ground. I mean, if I could work 12 hours, 15 hours a day, every day, I would. I'm single, young, I don't have kids. I'm looking for my kids. They're fur babies. So for me, it almost has been overcoming a guilt in a way of taking time for myself, which I don't think is a good thing, but it's something that I've become very aware of. And it's something that I realize that if I don't make it a priority to take care of myself and to try and learn how to bring that pleasure over pain into my life, that I won't survive. I mean, straight up, I will make it.
Why do you work so hard?
That's, I think through therapy, there's a lot of reasons, but I think a lot of it has to do with the way that I was trained as an athlete, which is the most reward. I love what I do. And I think if I was I have had other careers that have not been as entrepreneurial that I haven't really been passionate about, and that I haven't wanted to give my all to, and that it was kind of just showing up and getting through 9 to 5, and it made me very complacent. And I think what real estate does is there are so many routes to success and finding what's authentic to you, that there's so many shiny objects. So it's really finding what works for you and being consistent with it. But because there are so many things going at all times, if you're not delegating, if you're not learning what your, dollar per hour is and how you're spending your time and what tasks you should not be spending your time on versus where you should really be focusing, like if you don't get acutely aware of these things, you will end up working all the time. And to me, I love real estate, so I have a really hard time not wanting to work all the time. But I know that if I put my body under too much stress, that I won't be able to move for a couple of days, and that is not conducive to anyone. So it's really finding that balance of yes or no.
What drives you? I mean, you said your big why. So I guess what's your big why that drives you to work till you're dead, I guess?
My client, honestly, working with people I love so much, my clients, and having an impact on the city that I love so much. Like growing up in between Breckenridge and Denver, I have seen this city evolve so much, and for good and bad, just as any city. And watching my dad be a developer and have such an instrumental part in the growth of Breckenridge. Now, growing up, I hated it because to me it meant following him on job sites, being freezing, and I know, I didn't want anything to do with it. I thought real estate was corny. I had a used car salesman mentality about it. It was like the last thing I ever thought I would do. But what I've realized is that if you approach real estate, just like anything in life, with a relational lens and a lens of wanting to actually give back to your community and to the place that you love, that is my why. So being able to develop properties that I know are going to be lasting for forever, hopefully, as compared with like a lot of the really crap new construction going up that is thrown together by out-of-state developers and falls apart in 2 years. And it's like really disheartening. So being able to have a voice in the city of Denver and in ensuring I understand what is going on with our community and how I can be a positive impact on it, how I can build something that is legacy through development, and then how I can help people create long-term financial wellness for their families and do so in a way that I love so much, because I have a background in interior design as well. So being able to really help people envision what spaces can be and how they can make it their own and how they can make it home. Like, honestly, it brings me more joy than I can even say. I was showing properties yesterday in the mountains with one of my business partners, and it was a long day, and it was, I think, a high of -2 yesterday. It was blizzard. It was rough. Like it was an interesting day for showings, but we got finished, and I looked at him and I'm like, I still, don't get sick of showings, because when I see how that look on people's face when they walk into the property that is the property that they didn't even ever imagine was going to be the one for them, and really help them to, I think there's such a lack of understanding and education in the real estate realm. Just in like the adulting realm, honestly, like you don't ever learn these key tools that you need to be successful as an adult. Like you don't learn how to get a mortgage. You don't learn about credit scores or taxes and so there's almost like this invisible barrier of entry where people feel like they should know what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to real estate. And I try and remind people, whatever their career is, that I would go to them because they're the experts and I know nothing about it. So why would I expect you to know anything about real estate? But I'm here to give you the most information and educate you as much as possible so that you have your own toolkit for making the right decision for your family. And to be able to be that, source of really valuable resource that people can come to over years and years, whether it's needing a recommendation for a vendor or finding their first investment property, but to know that the value I'm bringing through education and it kind of empowering people to make a huge investment that's going to be life-changing for them is my why. That's a lot of why.
So I've been in the business, 13, 14 years, talked to a lot of different realtors. And I think, and this is just me, and I could be totally wrong off this, I think there's tiers to why. And I think we're really, and I know we're getting closer to the end of this, but we've got tiers to why. And I really believe there's a bigger why than the stuff that you're talking about. I could be totally wrong, but it seems like,
talk to him.
It seems like, legacy. That's kind of the stuff that I've picked up, that like and I'm not trying to read it because I deal with all this stuff, but you think so highly of your father because you brighten up about a lot of stuff you say, but you brighten up about how your dad's developed all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like you want that same kind of legacy for yourself, almost to be on the same level of that. And each agent gets you, each closing gets you there, right? Because you've talked about, I want to make this happen, I want to make that happen, and it seems like the core of it's a legacy. But I could be wrong.
No, I think you should be my therapist, maybe. No, I do believe that has a really big part of it. And it's probably something that I haven't even acknowledged as much as I should, because, and I think when we say legacy, yes, it's my family's legacy, but it's also the legacy that others are able to create for their families through real estate. Because real estate is the number one way to build long-term financial wellness for a family, and or for anyone. Doesn't have to be a family, for anyone. And I'm a firm believer that it's our duty to make sure that we are putting our clients in positions for success and to be able to pass on that legacy. And that means helping them vet the best home inspectors and making sure that we're putting them in properties that are not going to fall apart in 2 years. So for me, it kind of all gets encompassed, and it really does end up being the legacy of creating beautiful, well-built, attention to detail, unique properties the way that my dad did. And it's, I think you're the first person that's ever brought that up, and I love it, and he's going to love it for sure. But it's so true. And what other career do you really have the opportunity to not only make such big imprints on someone else's family or someone else's life, through real estate, but also in the town, the city that you live in? I think we have a responsibility to make the place that we live and love that much better. I think it's a disservice to our city if we're not doing everything that we can to make it the best that it can possibly be.
Thank you, Athena, for being here.
Days.
If people are listening and they're looking to get more information about the Denver market, looking to talk to you, what's the best way of them reaching out or kind of staying in contact?
Yeah, I would love to chat with anyone anytime. So please feel free to reach out, unless it's one of the crazy messages that we talked about earlier in the podcast. But you can go to my website. All my info is on there, and it's just www.Athena, Athena, Brownson, Brownson, Realtor, Realtor.com. I passed the spelling bee clearly.
I'm going to finish off one last question. I think for a lot of people listening, right, you carry, it seems like you carry a lot, right? You have a lot of stuff going on. You have your team, you have basically the deals, you have the development, you have all that kind of stuff. You carry a lot. So when it becomes, and you have the sickness, or I don't know the best word, but the sickness, right?
Yeah.
What's when it just seems like it's just so much, right? When everything just seems like it's like coming at you, what do you do to like get back on track? I know for myself, I kind of meditate when everything just shuts out, but what do you do to like get you back on track?
I'm really good at burning myself out, because I do have a really difficult time saying no and finding that balance. So for me, it has really been a matter of trusting my team and delegating and kind of disappearing for a couple of days if I need to, and resetting. And when I disappear, I mean, that usually involves me, just taking a weekend and not talking to clients, not showing houses, doing, whatever things I need to do to refuel my body, and actually giving myself an opportunity to start dreaming big again. Because I think when we get so burnt out and inundated in the day-to-day, we stop thinking big and we lose that passion and excitement. And it's really important to have that. And for me, it usually means that I have to disconnect for a day or two and just delegate.
Is that basically hanging out with your fur babies? Is that drinking some wine? Is that going out camping? I mean, what does that look like?
At this phase of life right now, unfortunately, it's pretty lame. It's like hanging out with my fur babies, watching movies and making vision boards and goal planning, or getting an Airbnb maybe like a couple hours away. Even next week over Black Friday, I found a amazing deal at a wellness resort in Arizona. I'm going to go by myself for 2 days and just do meditation classes and breath work and, all of these things that I know will refuel me so I can come back and just hopefully, go back into crush mode. But it's all about finding balance. And if you figure out the key to that, let me know.
Yeah, no, I'm compared to when I first started to now, I protect my time as much as possible. But when I was, I mean, I think it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but I would grind myself. I would sleep on my office floor. Yeah. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But then I started getting really bad chest pains, and I was really careful, trying to be very careful with my health. Yeah. And so then I had a big like down moment where it was just, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, I had a really big down moment in my life. And basically after those couple of months, I really worked on self-help, and now I really protect myself. So because I want to live, basically.
Yeah, no. And you have to, and that's for me, it's all about finding those, building my toolkit of kind of protection, because in this industry, you will end up sleeping on the floor and having a heart attack if you don't. So yeah. I'm with you.
Well, thank you again, Athena, so much. Any last words of wisdom? Anything else you want to say to people listening?
I would just say life never goes to plan. Unfortunately, we can have the most beautiful business plan, life plan, whatever it is set out, and there will always be curveballs. But if you look back at your life and when you're going through adversity and challenges, and you realize that there would not be growth without those periods. Like you said, you went through such a dark time, and it's transformed the way that you take care of yourself. These are the moments in our lives that transformation and growth happen. And it's the thing that has kept me going. And I know that it's setting me up to be successful with these tools for the rest of life. So whether you're struggling because the market's been brutal, or you're burnt out, or you're going through divorce, whatever it may be, just remember that when we're uncomfortable, that's the time to lean in, and growth will come from it.
Thank you so much, Athena, for being here. Hopefully everyone listening got some great nuggets. Please go in the show notes, go find Athena. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Athena. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.